The wind howled through the blackened timbers of the Marlowe estate, a crumbling mansion perched alone atop a hill in rural Pennsylvania. The year was 1874, and the town of Garrison's Hollow had long whispered of the place. Its decaying gables, its sweeping walls, and the stench of something ancient lying far beneath it. Elias Crowe, a 32-year-old railway surveyor, had been hired to assess a collapsed tunnel, rumored to run beneath the hill. With only a lantern, his leather satchel of tools, and an old map in hand, he stepped inside the forsaken mansion, boots echoing on the warped wood. The house moaned with age, water dripped from cracks in the ceiling. Something scurried under the floorboards, and then he found it. Beneath a torn rug in the parlor, there lay an iron hatch embedded in the floorboards, sealed tight with rusted bolts and a hand-forged lock. The map showed no mention of the space. His breath caught in his throat. Something about the hatch felt wrong. Not just hidden, but buried, as if the earth itself had tried to forget it. Elias knelt, brushed off the dust, and read the faint inscription along the edge. "Silence is the keeper of faces." He hesitated, but then the lantern flickered, and behind him, a faint scraping sound echoed up from under the hatch. Elias pried the rusted bolts loose with effort. The iron hatch let out a moan like a dying animal as it creaked open, releasing a stale breath of air that smelled like mold and something rotten. Not death exactly, but old sorrow festering and sealed for decades. Beneath it, a spiral staircase of iron descended into darkness, far deeper than any cellar should go. Holding his lantern high, Elias took a cautious step downward. The air grew colder with every step. The sound of the storm above faded until it was replaced by a distant humming, almost like chanting, yet without words. After nearly 5 minutes of descent, the staircase opened into a cavernous tunnel, an underground railway platform buried beneath the mansion. The architecture was strangely ornate for a transit space. Marble columns, gaslight sconces still burning with blue flame, and intricate carvings on the walls. No trains, no tracks, just a wide platform stretching into shadows on both sides. He turned in a slow circle. "This can't be here," he whispered. Then he saw the faces, dozens of them, etched into the stone walls. Human faces, carved in exquisite detail, but each was missing eyes, a nose, a mouth, just smooth hollows where expression should be. Elias stepped closer to inspect them. One of the stone faces had fresh tears trailing down its blank surface. Suddenly, a gust of cold air swept through the tunnel, extinguishing his lantern. Total darkness. Then footsteps. Not echoing like his own, but dragging slow, wet footsteps on stone. And from the blackness came a whisper, not spoken with a mouth, but pressing directly into his mind. "You've seen. Now you're mine." Elias stumbled backward, clutching the extinguished lantern, heart hammering in his chest. The whisper had stopped, but the footsteps hadn't. They grew louder, closer, and then paused just a few feet away from him in the darkness. He held his breath. Then with a crack, one of the blue sconces flickered back to life, casting an eerie half-light across the platform. What stood before him wasn't a man. It wore the uniform of a railway conductor, tattered and stained with time, its gloved hands twitching with jerky, unnatural movements. Its head was completely smooth. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. Just a pale stretch of skin where a face should have been. It tilted its head at him, as if listening without ears. Elias took a step back, but the entity mimicked his movement forward, step for step. Then, from the shadows behind it, others emerged, more figures, in conductor uniforms, some taller, some broken-limbed, all faceless. They lined the platform silently, forming an aisle, and at the far end, a train horn sounded. But it wasn't a real horn. It was a screaming voice, long and distorted, blowing through unseen tunnels. Something was coming. Elias turned and ran. Elias ran along the platform edge, seeking an exit, but the tunnel stretched endlessly in both directions, shifting unnaturally. Walls groaned as if alive. The carvings of faceless stone heads seemed to watch him without eyes. Then he heard it, a train thundering through the darkness, not on tracks, but floating above ground, levitating slightly, silent save for the wind it dragged behind it. It shimmered like a memory made solid. Black iron, cracked windows, and a conductor's bell that rang without sound. It slid to a stop at the platform beside him. The faceless figures stepped aside in unison, welcoming it like priests at a funeral. One carriage door opened slowly with a metallic gasp. Elias should have run, but his body would not move. Something unseen pulled him forward, step by unwilling step toward this open door. Inside the carriage, the seats were filled with passengers, all perfectly still, all faceless like the ones outside. And among them sat himself. Not just a reflection, but an identical Elias, dressed the same, sitting quietly, without a face. Then the real Elias screamed, finally able to move, and turned to flee. But the platform behind him was gone. Only tracks now. Endless rusted tracks, leading only deeper into the dark. Elias ran blindly along the ghostly tracks, lantern swinging in his grip though no flame remained. The air pulsed with the presence of the faceless ones. The walls blurred and groaned, as if rejecting his attempt to escape. Then suddenly, silence. He stumbled into a narrow offshoot tunnel, low ceilinged and dripping with moisture. At the end stood a rotting wooden sign, nearly illegible. Platform 0, not for passengers. He looked back. The train hadn't followed yet, but the tunnel behind him was slowly closing. Walls fallen like skin being stitched. With no choice, Elias entered the hidden platform. It was much older, choked in cobwebs and roots. There was no train here, just a mirror hanging crooked on a cracked stone wall. He approached it, but there was no reflection, only fog. And then a hand, his hand but older, burned and trembling, pressed against the inside of the mirror from the other side. A voice echoed round him, hollow and deep. They made me ride. Now I cannot leave. And the hand in the mirror began scraping, desperate, trying to break the glass from within. The mirror shattered, but instead of shards, it fell away like peeling skin, revealing a hollow chamber beyond, lit by a dim red glow. Inside stood an ancient train car, suspended in midair, surrounded by chains that stretched into the earth. A throne sat at the center of the chamber, constructed from passenger seats, iron gears, and shattered lanterns. On it sat a figure cloaked in black, with no face but a thin veil of stretched skin over the head. Its chest rose and fell, though it made no sound. It was larger than the others, older, the original, the collector. Elias tried to run, but the ground beneath him became liquid shadow, sucking at his feet. The collector slowly rose and raised one gloved hand. From behind Elias, all the faceless passengers began to emerge, silent, surrounding him in a perfect circle. The collector stepped forward. No mouth to scream, no eyes to cry. "You are ready." Elias screamed anyway. The sound died instantly, and the world went black. When Elias awoke, he was back inside the Marlowe mansion, lying beside the open hatch. Morning light leaked through broken windows. Had it been a dream? But his boots were wet with soot. His shirt was torn. And in his hand, he still held a brass train ticket, engraved with a single word, "Taken." He stumbled outside. The estate was as ruined as before. But the ground beneath felt different now, emptier, as if something beneath had been drained. He returned to town, but no one recognized him. Not the innkeeper, not the sheriff. Even the house he rented was gone, replaced by a general store. "How long was I gone?" he asked a passerby. The man blinked. "Marlowe Estate, that burned down 40 years ago. No one's gone near that hill since." Elias ran to a mirror. The face that stared back was his, but wrong, faint, pale, and starting to fade. That night, Elias heard the train horn again. Not from underground, from his own backyard. He stepped outside, and there, hovering just above the grass, was the ghost train, glowing softly, waiting with its door open. The faceless conductor stood silently at the top of the steps. Elias didn't scream. He didn't run. He simply nodded and boarded. As the train disappeared into mist, the collector watched from the tree line, cloak fluttering in the wind. Another face collected. Another silence added to the trackless path beneath the world. And in the ground beneath Garrison's hollow, the faceless multiplied.